Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Harul Famil Fatimu from SMA Negeri 1 Banjarnegara, and today I'm participating in NSDC 2026 as the opposition team. Well, today's motion is this House believes that schools should replace traditional examinations with project-based assessments. And I stand for the opposition team. Well, first of all, I would like to define the definition of today's motion. So, the definition of traditional examinations is a formal timed test that used to measure students' academic understanding under controlled conditions. And it has a diverse type of questions, such as multiple choices, and then essay exams, and then it also held in many different times, for example, like in midterm assessment and then final examinations. And sometimes it is flexible, like a standardized test, for example, like IELTS or scholastic assessment test or SAT. So this formal test is usually assess the individual performance, like the level of knowledge of someone with a fixed time limit and focus on memorization, analysis, and written responses. While the project-based assessment is a method of evaluating students through long-term assignments or practical tests rather than the formal exams. For example, like a research project and then a presentation and then experiments, group work, and many others. These assessments focus on practical application, collaboration, creativity, and problem-solving skills. Well, overall, today's motion says that schools should eliminate or substantially discontinue the traditional assessment, so the project-based assessment would become the main or the dominant form of assessment, not just an additional method. And right now, let's talk about the arguments of mine. So I strongly disagree, and I would like to explain why I disagree with this motion. So the first one, the traditional examinations could ensure fairness by providing a standardized test format. So all of the students can experience equality by the same conditions when the exam is held. So beyond that, the traditional exams are also have some good points. For example, like they are conducted under the same time limits, so it will create a fairness among the students, and then they use the same questions in every student. Then after that, it will minimize the outside assistance. When we compare it with the project-based assessment, we cannot control whether someone has outside assistance or not. And then after that, it will objectively measure the individual performance. While the project-based assessments can be influenced by many things, for example, like the parental hope, and then after that, the unequal access to some resources will create inequality between the students. And then the project-based assessments will also like involving some tutoring classes, like inviting someone to tutor us for the project. And then after that, it also create a group contribution imbalance. I mean, there is some strong students that will carry the project of the assessment, while the other students will contributing just a little bit. So it'll create an equality, and we cannot specifically score the ability of students, and we cannot know the exact understanding level of the students. And then after that, the students from wealthier background may produce better projects. It is not because they are more capable, but it is also because they have more support, whether financially or mentally. So this creates unfair academic outcomes and broaden the educational inequality. And then the second argument is project-based assessment cannot accurately measure the individual understanding, like I've mentioned before. So the projects often fail to show whether students have truly understand the materials or not. And then after that, in group project, it'll be possible to create imbalances between students, like some students will contribute just a little bit, and then some students with stronger or broader knowledge will carry the project. And then after that, the traditional exam forces students to think independently and then recall the knowledge instantly or directly. And then after that, it will demonstrate the personal mastery under controlled conditions. So they will familiar when they are faced with several conditions where they have a lot of pressure. So it'll train the students to face that kind of situations. And then after that, the exams should test what the students knows. But project-based assessments sometimes just test what the students can access. So let's move to the next argument. The third one is traditional exams prepare students for a real-world academic and professional pressure. So there are some possibilities where students will probably continue their higher education until the master or until the PhD, for example. So they will not live in a practical work life, but they will live in a professional and academic life. And this kind of life cannot be I mean, for students that has already familiar with project-based assessment will struggling when they are faced with the professional academic life, when they have a lot of pressures, they have to be disciplined, they have to face some standardized tests. I mean, that's it. So the traditional exams train the discipline and then the time management and the performance under pressure. So in real life, there is a lot of tests that is used for many things. For example, like the university entrance test, and after that, the professional certifications, and then the scholarship test, and even a job recruitment test. Yeah. So this kind of test is still rely heavily on time test. I mean, they have a specific time and they have a limit of time. Then by removing the traditional exams entirely may leave students unprepared for high pressure situations where independent thinking is required quickly and accurately. So the schools should prepare students not only for creativity, but also for resilience and accountability. And then the last argument for me is the traditional exams are more efficient and reliable for large-scale assessment. So exams are practical for measuring academic achievement across large populations. It'll be more efficient because we don't have to grading every project, because the project-based assessment is usually subjective, so it'll spend more time to grade it. So let's be real, the governments and institutions need a standardized test methods to compare the students fairly. They need a standardized test, of course. And the second one, to determine the university admissions. Of course, they need a standardized and a specific test. And then after that, to allocate scholarships from governments, for example, like LPDP and then Garuda Scholarship, they need a standardized test. And then to evaluate this national education quality, it also needs the standardized test. So the project-based assessment are often subjective because grading can vary between various teachers and schools. While a national education system requires a consistency, not just a creativity. And now let's just be real. Let's take a look around the world to enter the university for the university admissions in US and UK and in Australia and in many countries. They still use the standardized tests such as S80 or A-level. So as a closure, I strongly disagree with today's motion because education should encourage creativity, but it must also preserve the fairness, the individual accountability, and academic standards. By replacing these traditional examinations, it may create a system that is less objective, less equal, and less reliable. That is my argument for today.